Hello and welcome to this webinar, 7 Ways Public Libraries Can Impact Student Learning. Good morning. My name is Mukunda Krishnaswamy. I'm the Chief Technology Officer at Lumos Learning. I would be the moderator for our presentation today. And it is my pleasure to introduce our presenter, Marissa Adams. Marissa has worked in education for the past 13 years. She has taught 8th grade US history and was a campus-level administrator at the elementary, junior high, and high school levels. She has served as curriculum writer and assessor and is currently completing her PhD in educational administration. Her education-related publications include 2 district-wide curriculum guides for Katy Independent School District and a curriculum guide for Lumos Learning. In addition to her campus-level work, Marissa serves on U.S. Congressman Michael McCaul's Educational Advisory Board and is a member of Texas Council of Women's School Executives, American Supervision and Curriculum Development, Phi Kappa Phi, and Delta Kappa Gamma. She has been recognized 3 times in Who is Who in Education Leadership publication. On a side note, Marissa recently released her first novel. Before I pass this on to Marissa, a couple of housekeeping tasks. During the presentation, all lines should be muted. However, you can post your questions in the chat box. At the end of the presentation, we will have about 5 minutes for question and answers. Marissa and I would be happy to answer any questions that come up at that time. Please go ahead, Marissa.
Good morning and welcome to the Lumos Learning webinar discussing the 7 ways libraries can influence student learning. As Mukunda indicated, we are very excited that you have joined us. We have a full house with us today. And because we have so many people online, at this point I am going to be activating the mute all button. As he mentioned, this will give us the best opportunity to hear all content. We will have time for a question and answer portion at the end of the presentation. However, I want you to feel free to participate in the discussion. So if you have a question or a comment you feel needs to be addressed during the presentation, feel free to type it into the chat box on your screen. Thank you for joining us as we explore the relationship between the Common Core state standards and public libraries. This is actually a topic that has been extremely important and relevant to me. While I was working as an administrator at a junior high, we were housed directly next to our public library. In fact, this is where many of our students went when school was out. Over time, at the request of our local librarian, our administrative staff worked to create a partnership with the library next door. So our students were not just hanging out at the library after school, but were actively engaged while they were there. This was the beginning of my research as to how libraries could impact the public school learning environment. We're going to be covering quite a few interesting topics today. We're going to take a look at exactly what the Common Core State Standards Initiative is, the history of the initiative, where the initiative currently is, and where they plan to go in the future, the types of resources that are available for parents and students, the 7 ways libraries can influence student learning, and then we will take a quick look at one example of database learning, the Lumos Learning Library Program. We will then follow up with some time for questions and answers. And if there are no questions at this time, we will go ahead and get started. Educational standards are not a new idea. However, they constantly receive quite a bit of buzz. It seems everyone has an opinion on how valid the notion is and whether or not standards should be supported. But like it or not, standards are here to stay. In fact, educational standards are being standardized themselves. As the accountability movement progresses, educational leaders in many states have recognized the need for more robust and rigorous guidelines. The Common Core State Standards Initiative was created from that need. It is a state-led effort that is coordinated by the Council of Chief State School Officers and the National Governors Association for Best Practices, and it has been built by school administrators, teachers, and other educational experts. The benefit of putting standards into action that align academic goals from state to state is that they create an environment where students will be able to graduate high school with all skills necessary to be active and successful members of society, whether they take a role in the workforce or in some sort of post-secondary education. While the Common Core state standards establish the skills students need to be successful, they only serve as a guide for educators. Each state has the authority to determine if they want to use the standards, how they will further develop them, and how those standards will be implemented. Once the state makes their determination, local school districts and teachers then further establish how students will be taught. In June 2010, the first set of mathematics and language literacy arts academic guidelines were released. This was actually the beginning of attempting to standardize education across the states. This current alignment is referred to as the Common Core State Standards. These guidelines have been adopted by 45 states and 3 territories within the United States. These standards are not prescriptive in nature, but they do indicate what content should be taught in which grade level. The standards also build upon one another. A student may be exposed to particular content at one grade level and then should be able to analyze it at a later level. Looking towards the future, the goal for the initiative is to align the Common Core state standards and the current accountability systems within each state. There are 2 consortiums that drive the assessment portion, the PAR-CC and Smarter Balanced. States have chosen to join one or the other consortium based on their own preferences. But standards also help immensely because schools are challenged with significantly different learners than ever before. We are in the age of the 21st century learner, the age of the digital native. Originally coined by Mark Prinsky, this phrase is now regularly used in a school system to describe those students who have been born into the world of technology and into the digital generation. Although every student coming into the classroom does not have the same access to technology, they each come to school with significantly more knowledge about technology than their teachers. The adults who are charged with teaching these students are referred to as digital immigrants. Certainly, most of the adults are familiar with technology, but they have had to take the time to learn how to use it personally and how to try to allow it in the classroom. Schools are embracing the idea of technology, working to safely include social media, Web 2.0 applications, and a variety of other tools. Many are including iPad initiatives and taking other steps to embrace the technological age of learning. These are the same young children and teenagers who are visiting public libraries. They are fluent in technology, and it is a strong part of their daily lives. Many will come to public libraries hoping to find the same type of technological support they are using in schools. At this time, I'd like to open up a poll on your screen. One of the questions that we have is, what elementary and middle school resources are available to your patrons today? The poll is now open. We've had about half of our people take a chance to answer the question, and we'll wait just a few more seconds. We're about 80% right now. If you haven't had a chance to answer, go ahead and do so now, please. We need about 5 more seconds, and then I'm going to close the poll, and we will share the results. Hopefully you can be able to see the results at this point. As you can see, we have about 95% who use books, 90% databases, 88% periodicals, 90% videos, and 80% audio. Which leads right into what we are discussing next. In addition to learning more and more via technology, students are also inundated with a variety of resources they can use to further their learning. At times, it can be almost overwhelming for them. They have access to textbooks, both in hard copy and in online, district websites, district resources, learning databases, and other supplemental classroom materials. They also have access to a State Department of Education websites and other education websites like ed.gov, edweek.org, and even the Common Core state standard websites for information. But students are not the only ones who are interested in these resources. Parents rely on them to help their students and to try to understand the common standards as well. I'm going to ask another poll at this time. Is assisting students, educators, and parents with the curriculum transition a 2013 priority in your organization? Again, we'll give about a minute for people to be able to respond and vote on this. We're at just about 80% voted. If you haven't had a chance to do so now, please take these last few seconds to take an opportunity and do that. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and close the poll, and then we'll share the results. And pretty interesting, we're at about 34% yes, 26% no, and 39% maybe. And as we've discussed with some of the other groups that we've done this with so far, part of that maybe is the unsureness and the unsure nature of where we can go from here. So how can Common Core state standards affect libraries? Although public libraries are not responsible for implementing these educational standards in any way, there are multiple ways the standards end up affecting libraries. Very often, parents are unsure how they can support their school-age children. Unfortunately, their time off from work does not always coincide with the times schools are available. Additionally, the amount of resources available can be overwhelming. The resources we mentioned before can be beneficial, but the information is not always consolidated into one location. Public libraries are standing on the edge of a unique opportunity to impact education in ways they never have before. They have the ability to act as a funnel for this wealth of information. If we imagine that the top of the funnel is the information provided by the Common Core state standards and schools. This includes the wide variety of information that spans multi-grade levels. Below that, we have the variety of resources and learning tools that can be overwhelming. The public library can act as a funnel that sorts all of that information together and places it in one location. So what are the ways that libraries can influence student learning? The first is by becoming a center of excellence. Public libraries can be the core of the community. By funneling this information for patrons, they can become a one-stop shop location for personal and educational resources. As already mentioned, the amount of resources for student access can be overwhelming. Public libraries can fill this gap by pulling all of this information together. The second way is by educating the community. Schools do an excellent job informing parents of educational changes, standards, and other information, but schools are also overwhelmed. They are limited on the amount of time they can offer that information to the public in ways that is flexible with parents and the adult work schedules. Libraries, however, have different hours. They are open in the evening and on the weekends. They can bridge that gap by offering parent education nights. Libraries can use their knowledge of Common Core standards as well as what the local schools are doing and pass that information on to parents. The third way libraries can influence student learning is by establishing cooperative relationships with schools. Budgets are tight for both public and school libraries. Fostering a positive partnership between both groups not only creates relationships, but it can enhance student learning as well. There are a variety of ways this can happen. Libraries can offer joint book clubs with the schools. They can offer a resource exchange. They can be a location for field trips. One of the best examples of where this occurred was within the Somerset County Library System, beginning in 2010. Struggling with budget cuts, this system decided to work with the local school system. Each student was offered a library card, including those who technically did not reside within the boundaries of the system. Patrons began using the library in larger numbers. This entire system became a benefit to not only the public library, but the school and students as well. A fourth way libraries can influence student learning is by providing a resource exchange for students, parents, and even the public schools. Libraries can stock up on current workbooks, videos, and other educational materials that can then be checked out. Using the newly formed partnerships that we discussed above with schools, they can also enhance the public and school libraries and be able to complement each other instead of possibly ordering irrelevant or competing resources. A fifth way that libraries can enhance student learning is by creating teen advisory boards. Nobody knows what works best for modern-day youth better than teens. Public libraries can create an outlet where this group of students has a voice. Getting them involved in the public library from an early age offers them a unique experience. Additionally, many teenagers are looking for volunteer hours for programs such as National Honor Society or for graduation requirements. The public library is an excellent place for them to be able to get their volunteer hours and become interested in the library. A sixth way libraries can influence student learning is through social collaboration. Whether it is online or offline, students constantly work in a state of social collaboration. They like to meet together. They like to talk in person and via technology. Public libraries can offer opportunities for group learning and support. Peer tutoring sessions, online information exchanges, and other similar learning activities can take place there because the library is a safe place for learning to occur outside of the school walls. And finally, one of the ways libraries can influence learning is by offering electronic resources. Public libraries have the ability to continue strengthening student learning outside the school hours through educational databases. There are a variety of these types of programs. Learning Express, Mango, which focuses on languages, and Facts and File are examples of these programs that all offer large amounts of information in convenient modes of delivery that are easy for students to understand. Students are familiar with using learning databases. In fact, many of them use similar programs during the school day but are not able to access them in the evening. By offering them at a library, students would be able to access those educational databases whenever they needed. One additional database program that can influence student learning and can be accessible to students at any time is the Lumos Learning Library Program. This program enhances classroom training and learning. It is self-paced, student-directed, individualized, and personalized learning that can improve student performance on any grade level standardized test. This program uses the Common Core state standards and all of the resources that are available and offers it for students and parents in one location, making it easier for public libraries to be a one-stop shop. There are online learning and practice tests, as well as workbooks and videos that can be ordered and checked out through the library. The Lumos Learning Library Program also offers convenient access. Once your library patrons have logged in and created an account, they are able to access the program 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, from either their home or the library computer. It also offers individualized and comprehensive reporting for both student learning that the parents and students can use to see how the students are doing on any specific learning objective. This can be shared with the schools to enhance learning. It also provides reports for the public library as well. The library is able to generate a report of regular usage to determine how often the program is being utilized by patrons. Current Lumos Learning Library Program clients indicate they regularly use these reports when determining to renew the license. The Somerset Library System we mentioned earlier, who worked to establish relationships with the local schools, indicates their usage remains fairly consistent throughout the year and then jumps exponentially before the annual standardized test. The program serves as a true collaborative learning platform. It allows the teachers, parents, students, and public libraries the ability to work together and add value to student learning. It can be found at lumoslearning.com/library.